Ladies and gentlemen and tennis fans around the world, especially the millions of hearts beating in unison across Asia, welcome to a moment that history may one day mark as a true turning point. We are live at the Mubadala Abu Dhabi Open, a WTA 500 event known for high-octane tennis, yet tonight it delivered something far greater than just a match. It delivered a statement screamed from the baseline, echoed at the net, and felt deep within the foundations of Asian sports history. Headlines lit up screens from Manila to Jakarta, Tokyo to Dubai, and while shocked may be too mild a word, electrified or even indicated feels far more accurate. What began as a women's doubles round of 16 matchup, initially viewed as a curiosity, a Southeast Asian special, as transformed into a full-blown gladiatorial epic. On one side stood the newly formed dream alliance of the Philippines' golden girl Alexandra Eala and Indonesia's rising star Janice Jen, a partnership born from rivalry and forged in regional battles, now united under the banner of Southeast Asian excellence. Across the net were the heavy favorites, veterans, the towering wall of experience, the Filipino-Canadian sensation Leylah Fernandez, and decorated French doubles specialist Kristina Mladenovic. And let's be honest about the narrative coming into this match. The tennis world had already written the script. Pundits and betting odds alike looked at this draw and saw a clear hierarchy. On one side were Leylah Fernandez, a Grand Slam finalist, and Kristina Mladenovic, a multiple Grand Slam doubles champion, representatives of the establishment, proven commodities, and high-ranking powerhouses. On the other were Alexandra Eala and Janice Jen, immensely talented and full of promise, but unmistakably cast as underdogs on a WTA 500 stage against opponents of that caliber. They were expected to fight bravely, gain experience, and bow out gracefully. But sport, as we know, does not obey scripts written by statisticians. Under the floodlights of the Zayed Sports City International Tennis Center, that narrative was torn apart and rewritten in sweat and grit. What unfolded defied the logic of rankings, revealing a chemistry between Eala and Jen that usually takes years to build, yet seemed to materialize in days. Even the much-hyped Civil War storyline Eala versus Fernandez, the Philippines' homegrown hero against the global icon with Filipino roots, laid out not with animosity, but with fierce competitive respect, pushing both women to their absolute limits. The result sent shockwaves because it shattered the status quo. It announced to the world that the Southeast Asian tennis boom is no longer coming, is already here, breathing, fighting, and winning. Fresh off a career-high ranking of world number 45, Alexandra Eala, alongside Janice Jen, Indonesia's first WTA semi-finalist, stepped onto the court not merely as players but as ambassadors. They carried the weight of two tennis-hungry archipelagos when nations craving elite representation on the sport's biggest stages. Instead of buckling under that pressure, they wielded it as a weapon. This match was about far more than forehands and backhands. It was about the mental fortitude to stare down a Grand Slam champion like Mladenovic at the net without blinking, the tactical intelligence required to neutralize Fernandez's deadly redirection of pace, and the sheer audacity of two young women who saw the favorites label and decided to rip it apart. What follows is a deep dive into the substance of this encounter, game by game, set by set, analyzing the serves, returns, and lightning fast volley exchanges that defined it. We will explore what this performance means for Eala's season, for Jen's rapidly rising stock, and for the future of Asian tennis partnerships as a whole. To fully grasp the magnitude of what unfolded, we must first appreciate the strength of the opposition. Fernandez and Mladenovic form a terrifying combination. Mladenovic, arguably one of the most accomplished doubles players of her generation, boasts golden hands at the net, suffocating court coverage, and a doubles IQ that borders on elite mastery. Alongside her is Fernandez, a left-hander like Eala, but one who thrives on chaos, aching the ball early and injecting a singles player's intensity into every exchange. And the doubles alley, Fernandez and Mladenovic are a team that can beat you with sheer power, but prefer to dismantle opponents with geometry, opening angles that seem to defy logic. Against them stood the Southeast Asian challengers, Alexandra Eala and Janice Jen, rivals turned partners, a headline that fits perfectly. Just a year ago, Jen had defeated Eala in the quarterfinals of the Sao Paulo Open, and that history meant they knew each other's games intimately, usually as adversaries. In doubles, however, that knowledge became a weapon. Jen knew exactly where Eala liked to place her serve and when to poach behind it, while Eala understood Jen's movement patterns well enough to switch and cover lines instinctively. From the opening games, the tension was palpable. The Abu Dhabi crowd, heavily filled with Filipino and Indonesian expatriates, created an atmosphere that felt far more like a Davis Cup or Billie Jean King Cup tie than a neutral venue. The energy was electric, but the weight of expectation was heavy. The first set became a baptism of fire, a brutal welcome to the big leagues delivered by Fernandez and Mladenovic. Early on, Mladenovic relentlessly targeted Chen's serve, a clear tactical choice designed to isolate the Indonesian and keep the ball away from Eala's heavy left-handed forehand. She crowded the net, cutting off angles and forcing Chen to attempt near-perfect passing shots just to stay in points. Eala, meanwhile, struggled to find her rhythm on the return. Fernandez's serve, though not among the fastest on tour, proved deceptively effective, especially the slice out wide on the ad court that dragged the returner off the court and opened the middle for Mladenovic to punch away routine volleys. It was classic doubles tennis, executed with surgical precision. By the fifth game, Eala and Chen were down a break at 4-1, and the shock that would later define this match seemed unimaginable. The contest looked like a routine day at the office for the favorites, with the gap in experience glaring. Eala began overhitting, forcing winners from impossible positions as if trying to carry the team alone, while Chen appeared tight, her footwork just a fraction slower than usual. Then, in the seventh game, something shifted uttle, almost invisible, but absolutely critical as Eala and Chen began to change the flow of the match. They began communicating constantly and gestures between points, quick whispers, high-five signs of a partnership finally locking in. Even after lost points, they stopped playing like two singles players sharing a court and started moving as a single unit. Tactically, they made a bold adjustment by targeting Leylah Fernandez's backhand volley, a risky choice given her solidity, but one they sensed vulnerability in, particularly on higher balls. Eala began using her heavy topspin forehand not to overpower Fernandez, but to dip the ball at her feet, forcing uncomfortable volleys. It was a clear moment of maturity from Alexandra Eala. Realizing she couldn't out-hit her opponents, she chose to outmaneuver them instead. Although Fernandez and Mladenovic eventually closed out the first set 6-4, the momentum had unmistakably shifted. That scoreline flattered the favorites, as the final three games turned into a bruising dogfight that signaled Eala and Chen had fully awakened. The second set marked a true Southeast Asian resurgence. Eala and Chen emerged with a completely different energy and controlled aggression replacing early tension. Janice Chen, who had been relentlessly targeted in the opener, suddenly flipped the script and became the aggressor, poaching boldly at the net. Doing so against Mladenovic is a terrifying proposition. Her reflexes can end points in an instant. Chen showed no fear, intercepting 3 cross-court balls in the opening game alone to secure the hold. With Chen anchoring the forecourt, Eala was freed to dictate from the baseline. Her forehand, the weapon that carried her into the world's top 50, began to control rallies, pushing Mladenovic back and dragging the Frenchwoman out of her lethal net comfort zone. When Mladenovic is pinned to the baseline, she remains dangerous, but she is manageable. At the net, she is devastating. Eala understood that distinction perfectly and executed the plan with precision. The turning point of the second set arrived at 3-3 with Fernandez serving. What followed was a marathon game that stretched beyond 12 minutes and featured 5 deuces, as the crowd roared chants of Alex, Janice, until the stadium shook. On the 6th deuce, Eala unleashed a fearless return down the line, daring no-man's-land strike that froze Mladenovic at the net and earned breakpoint. On the very next point, the match tilted on its axis. On that next point, the chemistry finally revealed itself in full. A grinding rally unfolded, Chen floated up a defensive lob, Fernandez smashed but couldn't put it away, and Eala stepped in decisively to crush a backhand cross-court winner. The break was secured, the stadium erupted, and suddenly it was 4-3 to the underdogs. From that moment on, they never looked back. Eala and Chen held serve with confidence and then broke Mladenovic to close out the set 6-3. One set apiece. Just like that, the narrative had flipped. A genuine shock was now brewing in WTA doubles. The deciding third set came down to a super tiebreak, first a 10-point sprint, a nerve test, where every mistake is magnified and every winner feels like gold. It began disastrously for Eala and Chen, who quickly fell behind 0-3 as Fernandez fired an ace and Mladenovic punched away 2 lightning-fast reflex volleys. The experience gap seemed to be reasserting itself, but at that critical moment, Alexandra Eala showed why she is widely seen as the future of Asian tennis. She stayed calm, serving an untouchable bomb down the tee to make it 1-3. Moments later, during a frantic rally, Chen hit a reflex volley that clipped the net cord and trickled over art luck, part courage, and suddenly it was 2-3. From there, the points traded relentlessly. 4-4, 5-5, 6-6. The tension was suffocating, the arena falling into pin-drop silence before each serve and erupting after every point. At 7-7 came a moment of pure brilliance from Janice Chen. Fernandez struck a swinging volley that looked destined to be a clean winner, but Chen read it perfectly, lunged, and produced a block volley lob over Mladenovic's head that landed flush on the baseline clear shot of the tournament. It made it 8-7, and now Eala was serving. She missed her first serve, ratcheting the tension even higher, then went for a bold kick serve out wide. Fernandez stepped in to crush it, mistimed the swing by inches, and sent the ball long. 9-7. 2 match points for the Southeast Asian Dream Team. The final point is unforgettable. Chen served into the body of Mladenovic, who blocked the return back. Eala crossed aggressively to poach. Mladenovic read it and went down the line, and in a split second Eala adjusted mid-air, barely getting her racket on the ball to produce a dying drop volley that sank into the hard court like quicksand. Fernandez scrambled and managed to flick it back up, but Chen was already there, calmly placing an overhead smash between the two legends. Game, set, and match. Eala and Chen closed out the upset with a stunning 4-6, 6-3, 10-7 victory. That scoreline is exactly why this result is so shocking. On paper, Fernandez and Mladenovic should win that super tiebreak 9 times out of 10. They've been there before. They own the trophies. They know how to close. But Eala and Chen played with a hunger that simply overwhelmed resumes and reputation. To understand how this happened, the numbers tell a revealing story. The first key was breakpoint conversion. In the second set, Eala and Chen were a perfect 2-for-2, ruthless and clinical when chances appeared. Contrast that with the first set, where they went 0-for-4, and the mental shift becomes obvious. That composure under pressure changed the match. The second defining factor was net dominance. Remarkably, the team that controlled the net in the latter stages wasn't the one featuring Mladenovic, but the underdogs. Chen's fearless poaching shattered the rhythm of Fernandez and Mladenovic, forcing them to aim for ever smaller margins and drawing unforced errors at crucial moments. Then there was the left-handed dynamic. With both Fernandez and Eala being lefties, the spin patterns became awkward, but Eala exploited the ad court far more effectively. Her heavy cross-court forehand into Fernandez's backhand consistently landed deeper and with more weight, allowing her to win baseline exchanges and forcing Mladenovic to step in and intervene, penning up dangerous gaps. The emotional and psychological layer of this match cannot be ignored either. The so-called civil war element was real. Fernandez, a relentless competitor, clearly hated losing, firing herself up with loud come-on shouts more commonly seen in Grand Slam singles battles. She treated Eala not as a younger compatriot, but as a genuine threat, and Eala responded the same way. There was no awe, no hesitation. Eala didn't see Fernandez as a star she hoped to become. She saw her as an obstacle that had to be removed. That psychological shift is enormous for Alexandra Eala. She is no longer just happy to be here, he is here to win. She belongs here. For Janice Jen, this night marks a career-defining moment. To go toe-to-toe with Kristina Mladenovic and not just survive, but thrive, instantly puts Jen on the radar of scouts and coaches across the tennis world. It validates the progress of the Indonesian tennis program and confirms that her run in Sao Paulo was no fluke. This victory propels Eala and Chen into the quarterfinals of a WTA 500 event, with ranking points that matter. For Eala, it further cements her place inside the top 50 and nudges her toward the top 40. For Chen, it represents a major leap in the doubles rankings. Yet beyond numbers and points, this win is a statement. The whole Asia shocked headline isn't clickbait, tease a reality check for the tour. A new power block is forming in women's doubles, and it's young, fearless, and rooted in Southeast Asia. As this extraordinary night at the Mubadala Abu Dhabi Open comes into focus, its wider significance becomes clear. For decades, the sports narrative has been dominated by Europe and North America. Asia has produced champions Aina, Naomi Osaka, and doubles legends like Ai Sugiyama. What we are witnessing now with Alexandra Eala and Janice Jen is the arrival of the next wave. It's interconnected, symbolic, and powerful. A Filipino and an Indonesian, once rivals, now partners, dismantling a transatlantic heavyweight pairing. This was not just a win, it was a notification to the locker room that Southeast Asian teams can no longer be underestimated, and that experience alone is no longer enough. For Alexandra Eala, this week in Abu Dhabi is turning into a fairy tale till alive in singles and now creating magic in doubles, roving her stamina, versatility, and readiness to compete on multiple fronts at the highest level. For Janice Jen, the spotlight has finally found her. She has stepped out of the shadows and announced herself to the world. As their quarterfinal journey approaches, one thing is certain. After this night, they will fear no one. The chemistry is locked in, confidence is soaring, and the backing of millions watching online and thousands in the stands gives them wings few teams can match. The headlines will scream, shock, but for those who have followed the grind, the growth, and the brilliance of these young women, this feels less like an upset and more like destiny fulfilled. From the Mubadala Abu Dhabi Open, this is the story of the day Southeast Asia stood tall, the day the giants fell, and the day a shockwave rippled through the tennis world.